I just finished filming Toronto acquiring Kawhi Leonard, and obviously now moving on to the next talk of the town, Jaylen Brown being traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George and some more. So let's talk about it. So the Boston Celtics have agreed to trade Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George, two first round picks, and two second round picks. Details on the picks to the Celtics: a 2028 first round pick and a 2031 unprotected Philadelphia first, a 2028 second round, and a 2030 second round. I'm going to be honest. I know I've been hating on a few of these trades, and I think a lot of them have been good, but let me just say once again, this trade was better than Giannis. I know I can't stop talking about the Giannis trade, but it really bothers me. But this trade, as bad as it looks, I think it was kind of good for both parties. Let me explain, okay? Philadelphia, they get their guy, Jaylen Brown. Great. Now you got a rotation of VJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown. That is a great trio of guards, and you still have Embiid. We know Jaylen Brown can play the small forward position, so nothing too crazy there. That was a great move. You look at Boston. Here's the thing. Boston, without Jason Tatum on the season, were still a top 3 seed in the East. They were still a top threat in the East, and they were still a favored team to win the championship. Of course, it helps that Jason Tatum came back near the end of the season, but let's not act like Boston wasn't already talked about as a great team. Joe Mazzulla won Coach of the Year. Jaylen Brown, statistically speaking, had his best overall season, ignoring the championship, of course. But you got to think, this team, without Jason Tatum, was still a championship threat. So now you're telling me Jason Tatum, the one you arguably consider better than Jaylen Brown, is on this team without Jaylen Brown. And you have Paul George. Guys, the Celtics will still be a top 5 seed in the East. They probably could get the 1 seed in the East. They are still a great team. I know we flame this trade a lot because it's like you moved on from Jaylen Brown and you get Paul George in return. Look, Paul George has been inconsistent lately, absolutely. But when he helps his team, boy, he helps his team more than hurting him. I think this was a good move. You were always going to lose Jaylen Brown. I don't think you should have lost Jaylen Brown. I think you should have continued to keep him and Tatum together. But because of how the media is, you were always going to move on. And that's tough. But guess what? You still have Tatum. You still have a roster around him. You brought in Mitchell Robinson from New York to be your big man. You still have Neemias Queta as your backup center, who, he solidified himself as a good depth piece at the big man position for this Boston team. I don't see why people should be flaming Boston. I think the truth is you're always going to move on from Jaylen Brown. The truth is, if you have at least one of the 2 star players of that duo of Brown or Tatum, either one of them can still win you 50 plus games if you're Boston. And now you're telling me you get draft capital in return and you get Paul George? I don't see why Boston fans should be complaining. I get it. The only reason you should be complaining is the fact that the duo of Tatum and Brown is broken up. That's completely fine. You can be mad for that reason. But if you think this is all of a sudden going to drop the Celtics out of being a title contender, it's not. It's really not. Tatum will do just fine without Jaylen Brown, just as Jaylen Brown did just fine without Tatum. And Tatum is arguably the better player. So the Celtics have nothing to worry about there. And Paul George, again, I ain't saying he's Jaylen Brown levels of good, but when he is good for his team, he helps them a ton. So by no means was this a bad trade for Boston. I think people are hating on this a lot, but I think when we look at the reality of things, this was a good trade. The only thing that hurts, of course, is the fact that you're losing Brown. But we got to get over that because you were always going to lose Brown. This was a good trade for Boston. And for Philly, this was a good trade as well. You get Jaylen Brown. You pair him with the other 2 guards. You have Embiid. This was a good move. I don't see many flaws in this at all. This is going to be a real short video. But yeah, final takeaways. I think Boston's going to do just fine without Jaylen Brown, if not arguably better. And Philly's only going up from here because you had a piece that's so helpful in Jaylen Brown. I don't see why people are blowing this trade up as a horrible trade for Boston. I think this was a great trade. If you were going to move on from Jaylen Brown, at least you get something in return for him, and you can be successful without him. You've shown already that you can be successful without one of the two players from that duo. So honestly, I think Boston's probably going to be the same, if not slightly better than they were this past season. And people are blowing this trade completely out of proportion. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think this was a good trade, like what I'm feeling, or do you think it was a bad trade? And let me know why. And yeah, if there's more news coming, I'll make videos on those. But right now, my goal is to get the Kawhi and Jaylen Brown videos out. And yeah, that's going to be all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed.